process for applying the equation? Yes, and it's pretty simple. Jack flipped to another sheet of paper and began to write as he spoke. On one side, list 10 things you would do if you could do them for free. They could be anything that makes your heart sing. Then, on the other side, list 10 things you're good at, where you excel. Then, sit down with people who know you best and ask them for their help. With their input, remove one item from each side of the list until you're left with only two. One from the passion side and one from the talent side. Then find a way to combine those two things. Once complete, commit to taking action alongside the right association, and you may just have discovered your own success equation. Passion on one side, 1 through 10. Talent on the other, 1 through 10. You have my number. Call me if I can be of assistance to you along your journey. You have good energy, and you seem determined to learn. I can see why Buckland is supporting you. With these words of encouragement, Mates and Greg exchanged their goodbyes, and Greg headed back to his hotel. He needed to call someone he'd been trying to reach for several days. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Napoleon Hill. Chapter 7. Passion. After a couple of deep breaths, Greg worked up the courage to hit the speed dial on his phone. His heart leaped into his throat when she picked up. "Hi, Mia, it's me." "Hey, Greg, how are you holding up?" she said. He paced around the hotel room that had more comforts than his own home. He responded tentatively. "I have to admit, it's been hard, but I'm really learning a lot. Lately, I've had both my toughest and best moments ever." Without referring to his comment about the best moments, Mia said, "Sorry about the apartment. I was angry when I left, and I probably went a little overboard by taking everything." There it was, the moment of truth. This was the first time he had spoken with his girlfriend, that is, ex-girlfriend, since she had left him. His heart pounded. He continued the conversation, not knowing where it was headed or how it would end. "It's all right," Greg assured her. "And by the way, the note you left on the picture really hit home. I guess I was putting everything else before our relationship. I'm sorry for that." "That's not the only problem," she said. "It wasn't just that you were always gone and on the move. You never seemed to be going anywhere. You could never commit to me or yourself. You never finished anything. What happened to all those dreams you used to have? What happened to the man I fell in love with? You've changed." "Funny you should mention that. Well, maybe it's not so funny, but it is actually why I've been calling. I've met some really great people lately, and I've been doing some serious soul-searching of my own. I'd like to share what I've learned with you." There was a long pause before she said, "I don't know. I don't think I want to see you right now. I will tell you this, though. I will always love you and remember you for the person you are inside, not the person you tried to sell yourself as. You have a huge heart. I just wish you could have shared it with me once in a while. I fell for the dreamer, Greg, not the image of who you were trying to be." I don't blame you for any of this, Mia. Well, that's not the complete truth. I don't blame you for all of this. I'm beginning to see what my role has been and how I've screwed up. Her silence was more encouraging than scolding. At least that's how Greg chose to take it. "I also want you to know I've been talking to David lately. He's really hitting bottom right now, and I don't know what to do. I feel totally powerless to help him." "I'll say a prayer for him," she promised. "And for you, Greg." When she hung up, he actually understood. She was right. Whatever happened to the guy with the aspiration? Whatever happened to that person with all those ideas? Had he really changed from the guy she had known and loved? Could he change again? He remembered what Buckland had said. A dream is just a dream until it is written down. Only then does it become a goal. Before his mind could continue down the narrow path of his unfulfilled fantasy, the phone rang, snapping him back to the present. It was his mentor. "Hi there, Mr. Buckland," Greg answered, trying to put aside the sadness he was feeling and replace it with a smile. Then it hit him. That is what acting as if was all about. "Listen, on the way back tomorrow, Buckland said. "I want you to take a little detour and meet someone else. We'll send you an e-ticket. And, oh yes, I spoke with Mates, and he said you two really hit it off. I'm proud of you. That's why I decided to send you to meet with someone else I think is pretty special. Bring me back a sandwich." Greg asked. "What?" "A sandwich. I have to run. I'll be in touch." Now the younger man had to smile. Buckland had said he was proud of him. He had waited his entire life to hear those words from his own father. Even his girlfriend was disappointed in him. Thank goodness for Mr. Buckland. This new path he was on now had people being proud of him. Maybe things were turning around after all. Sitting down, he powered on his laptop and opened the attachment from Buckland's office. He needed to be at the airport at 5 a.m. Fortunately, it wouldn't take him long to pack, and his hotel was close to the airport. His destination? Atlanta, Georgia. With only minutes to spare the next morning, Greg boarded the flight, still wiping sleep from his eyes. That's when he discovered Buckland had bought him a first-class ticket. This was a luxury he had never splurged on for himself, even though he lived in a luxury apartment. Drinking in the ambience of the cabin, he almost failed to witness someone sliding into the seat next to him. She was a petite woman, to say the least. Although she only stood 4 feet 10, she possessed some very special quality. "Don't I know you?" he blurted before he could check himself. "Not sure," was her reply. "My name is Julie Crone. Good to meet you." Greg snapped his fingers. "You're a jockey. You were on the cover of Sports Illustrated and named as one of the toughest athletes of all time by USA Today." "That's me." She acknowledged his statement in a distinctive, childlike voice. In 2000, Julie Crone had become the first woman ever inducted into the Thoroughbred Hall of Fame, with 3,704 victories under her reigns. Her winnings totaled over $90 million, while her winning spirit had earned her the Ashby Award for Best U.S. Female Athlete in 1984. "You won a lot of races. Didn't you fall and break something?" "Actually, I fell many times and broke almost everything," she said. "My back, my leg, my ankle, my ribs, you name it. But it hasn't stopped me. There's nothing like doing what you love to do and getting paid for it." "So I heard," he said, thinking back to the talks with his mentors. "Was it hard being a woman in a male-dominated business?" "Yes and no," she responded. "Being male or female doesn't add or take away from our sport one way or another. The challenge was the mindset of many of the owners and breeders who just would not ride a woman jockey, no matter what." "How'd you overcome that?" "I just did," she smiled. "I remember there was this old-timer who said, 'Julie, I know you're a great rider and all, but I will never put a girl on one of my horses.' I thought to myself, man, you just painted a bullseye on your head. It became my mission to prove him wrong. In a few years, after I had chalked up all those wins, including a Breeders' Cup, he changed his mind. You know, I went on to win many races for that man." "Did that bother you, being told no all the time?" "Of course, but I did get something out of it. It gave me a goal. He actually did me a favor by giving me the fuel to keep my internal fire burning. I took on his attitude as a challenge. I discovered that if I showed up every day and did my best, eventually they'd put me on a horse just to get rid of me." Greg wrote in his notebook, "Keep showing up." Then, with a sparkle in her eye, Crone added, "And have faith. It was my faith that kept me from falling off the edge when things were really bad. The adversities and injuries that I suffered along the way were the very things that helped me become more peaceful and secure in my life today." Then Julie Crone looked at Greg and turned the table by asking, "What's your story? What's your burning desire?" "Wish I knew," he answered. He thought about Mia, about David's severe drinking problem, about his own hopes and dreams in the face of increasing financial obstacles. Which one was his most cherished desire? For the next few hours, he shared his recent journey and told her of his struggles with his girlfriend, his disappointment in David, and the concepts behind the success equation. He could not believe he was opening himself up like this. Crone was a great listener, and she helped him focus on moving forward. He couldn't help but wonder if he could have saved his relationship with Mia if he had opened up with her this way. Greg flipped a page in his notebook, and he and Julie began working on their personal lists and sharing them with each other. Staring at his own personal inventory, Greg could not help but notice a recurring similarity. It was the vision he had once had of what his life would look like, and now it was written right there, in black ink before him. Over and over, his passion for writing emerged. One of his early ambitions had been to become a reporter. His adoptive brother David was a writer, and had known some success at that vocation before alcohol had sidetracked him. On the talent side, Greg had communication skills. He was personable when he chose to be, and evidently had no trouble meeting others and striking up conversations with them. Lately, he had begun to question his deep-down motivations and some of his selfish surface behavior, sort of taking stock of his assets and his liabilities. And he was learning how to listen, which made all the difference.
How can I put the two together, find the right association, and then take action towards success?
He asked.
That's easy,
Julie said. She pointed at the two remaining items on his list.
You should be writing about the people you're meeting and what you're learning from them.
In that moment, he was struck by inspiration. Mr. Buckman had used the example of writing a book and asked how his friends and family would react to it. Then he had contrasted that to getting counsel from Charlie Tremendous Jones. It could have just been perfect timing, but the moment Julie talked about him becoming an author, the clouds outside the plane's windows cleared, and a beam of light stabbed through, filling the cabin.
That was weird. What a coincidence,
he stammered, as the two looked at each other in amazement and enjoyed this Twilight Zone moment. Everything happens for a reason, a voice commented from across the first-class aisle. A man leaned over and spoke to Greg and Julie Crone.
I could not help but overhear your conversation, and I think it may just be your mission to share the success equation with others who may profit from it.
It sounds like you're as passionate about writing as you are about learning how to become successful. Greg rubbed his scalp, wondering why he hadn't thought about writing before. The new voice continued. Back to the word coincidence, or coincidence, where two parts of a whole collide in perfect harmony. You may be on this plane for a bigger reason than just going to Atlanta. Who was this person? Allow me to introduce myself, the man said as he reached over to hand the two his business cards. His name was Richard Cohn, and he was the publisher of the international best-selling book, The Secret. It seems the entire world is filled with self-help, get-rich books that say you need to be wealthy, happy, and successful, yet few actually share the process of how to do it. What you've just stumbled upon could be your own secret that others would love to learn.
Really? Greg asked. You think so?
Sure. Let's face it. If you combine your passion for writing and learning from others with your talent for communication, and then you take action by following your mentor's lead, you have the makings of a very good book. It also sounds like you've already taken action by traveling and documenting what you've discovered. In addition, you have the final puzzle piece of association by knowing the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. One of my company's declared values is collaboration is essential to create miracles. Sounds to me like you might just have the winning combination for your own success and be able to help a lot of people in the process. Greg acknowledged the point while absorbing the input he was just given. This was definitely good counsel from an expert, not mere opinion. So he added to his notebook, collaboration is essential to create miracles.
Was it difficult for you to get into the business?
Julie Crone asked Cohn. Of course, there were many challenges, mostly financial. For the first 22 years, it was truly difficult. We published books we believed in, yet they never found mainstream appeal. By the way, I met Don Green at a book expo years ago, and I can tell you firsthand what a leader he is in our industry. Greg jumped in.
What kept you going during the tough times?
The knowing, he responded.
What do you mean?
Crone asked. I overheard an interview with a famous music conductor, Yahya Lin. He was one of those child prodigies playing the piano and going to school at age 4. At 18, he won a Rockefeller grant to attend the Juilliard School of Fine Arts.
From there, he went on to receive a doctorate and become one of the greatest conductors of our era.